Hello, citizenship students, and welcome back to Science Gizmos and Mr. G. Today we're going to be working on our very next start of Gizmos, which is going to be our senses gizmo today. The last 4 days we've worked on energy and how it's helped us provide food and understanding some of the smaller components of that, including flower pollination, as well as how honey is made and how bees help pollinate plants. We're going to move forward with our senses one, and the reason why we're starting with our senses one is because the ones that we are starting after that have to deal with simple machines. And understanding how simple machines also involves us to understand how our senses work so we can understand how we can observe the use of these and how we can apply them through the use of our senses. So this is fundamental to understanding how these simple machines down here that we'll be going over next week can be used in the real world. So let's launch it and get started. So it's just taking a second to load. I'll refresh my page. There we go. Okay. So we have on the left here our stimulus column. Now, stimulus is anything that can create a sense in your body. So for instance, if I think about an apple, I will think about the way it tastes. I will think about the way it smells. I'll think about the way it looks. It's kind of a unique object. Same thing with the rest of these. I've got looks like a washing machine, a flower, a pin, an orange slice, an ice cube, a cute little dog here, and a blue ball. And then of course our 5 sense organs. We have our eyes, our tongue, our ears, our nose, and our finger, which is to simulate touch. Now of course you can feel touch in any part of your body that has skin, but your finger, well, fingers are one of the most primary organs you use for touch. So of course, when you combine these two things, your stimulus as well as your sense organ, this will connect from whatever organ you have and whatever organ you're using to your brain through a neural pathway. So neural just meaning brain, and a pathway just like this into your brain, where your brain then develops the feeling and then transmits to yourself kind of what you're experiencing. Now, there are things called nerves that are attached to all your senses that help transmit it almost like electricity, and in some ways it's exactly like electricity from the sense organ to your brain. It's not like this big, long, almost like a fishing line you have here, but this is just a representation to help you understand that they are connected. So let's get started. So let's do an apple, and let's first see what happens when we see an apple. So it tells us exactly what happens. So light receptors, they're rods and cones that are actually inside your eye, at the back of the eye are activated by incoming light. So the light that you see coming off the apple, reflected by the sun or the light inside, enters your eye. The nerve cells, which are in your eye, transmit light signals to the brain. So the nerve cells in your eye then give that encoded message to your brain. And then it says the visual cortex in the brain processes the signals to create the perception of vision. So your brain takes these signals from your eye and then converts them in a way that you then understand in your brain that what you're seeing is an apple. And you can see here the part of the brain that it uses right back here is the visual cortex. So that's the part of the brain it uses. You can almost think about this for my students here that understand code. It's a lot like code in that, you know, code is a system of numbers in a certain pattern that can then be translated by a computer into something different. Like for instance, if I'm playing video games are really just a system of numbers through code, but the computer and the hard drive transmit that into, you know, graphics and movement and audio and things like that. And our organs work very much in the same way in connection with our brain. What's interesting is that we can go back here and we can do each sense for each one of these stimulus. So I want you to try all 5 senses for each one of these stimuluses and see what happens. So for instance, the tongue, which is the first one I would have thought of for an apple, because when I think of apples, I of course think of eating them first before I think of looking at them or smelling them or anything else. So it tells us that the taste receptor cells in the taste buds of the tongue react to molecules in food, activating nerve cells. Nerve cells transmit taste signals to the brain, and the gustatory cortex in the brain processes the signals to create the perception of taste. So this right here is the gustatory cortex. That's the part of your brain that understands taste after being transmitted by your nerves from your tongue. So play around with these and see what each one is like and get a good feel for how this works in the different parts of the brain and how the senses interact with that. When you're done, come down here and fill out the assessment, just the 5 parts here, so that I can give you participation for the Science Gizmos. I hope you guys have fun with this. I look forward to seeing your work, and I will see you guys tomorrow.